Primero Transport Services Limited Bus Rapid Transit Scheme was launched on 12 November 2015 by Lagos State as a private transport initiative. It's important to stress that fact because it's a sole operator of the Bus Rapid Transit BRT in the city, having a pilot route from Ikorodu to Tafawa Balewa Square, a distance of about 35 kilometers. The company maintains technical agreements with a Chinese company which supplies spare parts and keep close working ties with Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority. Well, with more than 400 buses in operations and 3 major terminals in Ikorodu, Ojota and Mile 12, the company is now set to expand operations. Now, for this reason, the company plans to raise capital from the public through a 7-year bond issue maturing in 2025. Well, joining me in the studio to look at this issue and others related to Primero is Fola Tinumbu, is the MD Primero Transport Services Limited. I also have Sonny Ayere here, is the CEO DLM. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me start with you, Mr. Tinumbu. Lately, I've been noticing some queues around different bus stops. Can you explain what is happening and how can we get this off? What are the plans to ease this queue?
In fact, that's exactly why we are raising the bond, because we need to put more buses out on the road. We need to put minimum 385, 386 buses out daily. That will reduce the waiting time for everybody. In fact, our goal is that we don't want anybody to wait for more than 10, 15 minutes to board our buses. So we need, and we have the buses. We just had cash flow issues that we cannot fix them fast enough as they break down. So with this bond now, we should be able to fix the buses as the moment they break down and put them back on the road. And daily, we can put 386 buses out on the road, and it will reduce the waiting time for everybody.
Immediately that is done, you show this will be eased up.
It will. It will make life easy for everybody because the demand is there. And people like our services, because for them to wait in the sun, in the rain for us, that means we're doing something right. So the solution now is to put more buses out. It's not that we don't have the buses, it's because of circumstances, financial circumstances that prevented us from putting enough buses out there. We're around about 240, 250 buses right now. But the goal is to go to 385, 386 buses daily. And that would make a big difference, to the queue.
My next question goes to you, Mr. Sonny. Now, how would a successful issuance of this bond, how will it shape this business, the Primero business, going forward?
I mean, just like Mr. Tinumbu said, right? The thing is, you have part of the monies that have been raised that would actually increase the working capital, right, for the company. What does working capital do? It covers things like diesel, cost of diesel, which, as you can imagine, with a bus, you're running that on a daily basis. So the more cash flow he has, right, as a company, the more you can actually fund more buses. So right now, the available working capital can only manage, say, for instance, 240, 250 buses, as he said. By increasing his working capital, he's able to now have additional working capital to put in another 100 buses, 150 buses on the road to make that sort of that magic 386 buses, right? And of course, if you think about it, it's a daily business. People are boarding buses every day, they're paying every day, right? So the idea basically is that the more buses you have, the more cash flow you make. The more cash flow you make, the better the service
now
you provide.
Let's look at, during my research, I saw that there have also been activities related to bonds by Visionscape, and we were relating to that, and many were saying, so what is really different? How is this different from that of that we had before now?
Okay, well, that's another question. The key issue is this. I mean, look, that bond, Visionscape, was that was a private company bond, right? Which was guaranteed by Lagos State government, and to my understanding, right now, Lagos State is making good its promise to pay principal and interest, and that's fantastic on the part of Lagos State. Whilst this bond here, the only link is the fact that the regulator to Primero is LAMATA, right? LAMATA being Lagos stands for
Transport.
Transport Metropolitan.
Yeah, Metropolitan
exactly,
Authority.
yeah, exactly. So that is a regulatory body that actually regulates the whole BRT corridor. My understanding is, for instance, about 13 BRT corridors to actually be issued. So what would happen is transport companies will bid, right, to win each concession, basically. Yeah. So they've bidded for the first one, which is the Ikorodu TBS one. They've gotten that one. When you speak to them again, there's another one that's actually they bidded for and also won. Yes. There'll be other companies to win, you know. So it's a competition to win it. But effectively, Lamata is that regulator, and that's the only link. In terms of this bond, it is a private sector bond, right? In other words, the company issuing it is private. And then, well, the sponsor is a private company. The issuer is actually a public company. It's just the way we manage things. It has been regulated by SEC, all right? It's been approved by SEC, by the Securities and Exchange Commission, and is expected to have minimum investment grade and be a 7-year bond, which should be attractive to investors. That's
interesting. Now, Mr. Tinubu, interesting that the way it sounds to me. I'm now looking at Primero in a few years' time. What kind of business are we going to be having in the next few years when we invest, when this comes into fruition? Actually,
with this, it changes the Primero completely. Because like Mr. Ayre said, we've won the concession for the Abule Egba to Oshodi. We'll be bringing another 350 buses for that. That's under construction right now, and it should be ready by the end of the year. So we'll be bringing about 350 buses for that, you know, access. So our goal is we would like to have 2,000 buses running all over Lagos, picking up 1 million people daily. It's ambitious, but that's our goal. That's our vision. That's where we're heading to. And as Lagos State, like Mr. Ayre said, they have 14 BRT corridors planned. The first one is the one we're on now. The second one is Abule Egba to Oshodi. So as they continue to do it, we'll continue to bid. And as we bid, we bring more buses in. Look, we want to do this on a scale that they do all over the world, so that we're providing a world-class service for Lagosians, and it's comfortable, affordable, and clean. So that you and I can park our cars, get on the bus, and go to wherever we want to.
That's true. We're looking at 7 years, Mr. Sen, 7 years. Yeah. So in that 7 years, let's look at this process, how it works for that 7 years. Shed more light on it for us.
So basically, in this case, this bond is actually a securitization. And effectively what it means is we're securitizing the bus ticket receivables. So effectively what's happening is as people pay their receivables, and in this case actually their bus tickets, and this would actually, in the next 6 months or so, and Mr. can clarify this, we'll be moving from paying cash to totally electronic payments, so that you totally remove cash leakages. Okay?
Properly monitored.
Yes, properly monitored. So basically, people pay, you know, to a bank, you know, the card is credited. That money, part of it is then used, okay, it's then collected on a, say for instance, weekly basis, right? And then if it's a 6 monthly payment bond, you collect monies on a say weekly basis, which would be like collecting money for what, about 26 weeks, all right? And then using that cash to pay bondholders, all right? The balance of the collections is what is then available for the company to operate and so on and so forth. So that way what you're doing is you're putting the bondholders, right, in terms of their receipt of their payment to rank ahead of the company's revenue, which gives a lot of bondholders comfort that their payments will be done. The second thing to mention is also the fact that they started with Sterling Bank. Sterling Bank was a partner from day one. And we have to also give kudos to Sterling Bank for the kind of support that they've given Primero from day one, and also the support they've given Primero for the bond, whereby they're actually acting as a guarantor. Yes, and also a liquidity facility provider. So in other words, what we're saying is, if for instance, there was a strike for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, such that collections were less than what was required, okay, Sterling says, I will cover you, all right? Or if for some reason, highly unlikely, everything just went to pots, boom, we can't pay, nothing, the buses just disappeared. Sterling says, you know what, I'll pay you off. So that bondholders, you're comfortable. So I think to my mind, one, it shows the understanding that Sterling Bank has of the transport sector and the potential that it has, and the fact that it actually believes in the management, all right, and the vision of the company. You know, to be able to sit behind the company to say, you go to the market, I'll sit behind you and make sure that whatever happens, right, investors will get their money back. That's fantastic.
Really fantastic. Mr. Tinubu, there are some challenges, transport business in this part of the world. Aside raising this bond, are there other issues you're looking at to also make Primero get to where you really want it to be in a few years?
Look, we are actually changing the paradigm of transportation in Nigeria and Lagos, because what we are trying to do is to go away from the Agbero model of the Molue of those days and Danfos that we have right now, and go to a world-class, service. And part of what we've introduced is that, like on our buses now, there's a free Wi-Fi on all our buses, and we have the electronic ticketing that he mentioned, so so that you can plan your trip ahead. We also have something called the Lagos BRT. It's an app that you can put on your phone, both Android and iOS, that you can plan your trip 24 hours before. So that, okay, I'm going from X point A to point B, and it will tell you what time the buses will get there and what time you get to, where you're going. In all our shelters right now, there's a display, an LED display that tells you when the next bus will arrive. So what we are doing is we're taking it to the next level. And we want to change the way transportation is run in Nigeria. And because of the size of our fleet, and because of, we can achieve economic of scale and, do a lot more better than most people have done, because it's not been tried on this scale before. Look, by end of the year, with the 300 or something, we'll have almost about 800 buses in our fleet. So it's a huge operation. Yeah.
Now, what is your message? What is your message now to the public? They are the ones that are going to get key into this. What will you have to tell them?
Well, I mean, it's not, it's public, but I would refer it in the sense that it's actually qualified institutional investors. So we're looking at pension funds, asset managers.
PFAs and all of that are coming in.
Those are really the investor class we're looking at. And I think, look, for my message is that, this is one time when you're actually investing in something that has social responsibility. Right? So think about it. Even you, the workers that work in the PFAs, you need this kind of service, right? The people that work for you need this kind of service, right? So these are the kind of things that you're saying, you know what, I'm actually adding value in terms of the investment I'm making is actually having an impact on people's lives. Think about it. So, the people, the cleaners that come to work at the shops, the cooks that come, all those people take the bus. Now, the more buses we can put on the road, the better for everybody. No question about that. In fact, the more efficient everybody becomes, right? And then the other thing is that, make no mistake, everybody who boards that bus pays to board the bus, right? Part of that money is coming back to you as an investor, all right? So it's something you can actually see. There's no smoke and mirrors about it. You can actually see it. When I get to work, for instance, I'm going to work and I see the buses coming down the bridge. You see them full, packed, right? So I'm saying to myself, and it always touches my heart, I have to say, when I'm driving and I look at people, 200 at the bus stop, and you're saying to yourself, please, this is one area that at least, if anything, let me invest in to actually help my fellow Nigerian. Thank you.
The population in Lagos is really, really, really something that you really need to look at. Mr. Tinubu, what's your parting shot?
My parting shot is that the first thing I would like to tell our communities is that, look, you're going to see a new Primero with this now, because the waiting time is going to be reduced and we'll provide a better service. And I'm telling all the Lagosians that we're coming to your area. You're going to get the service that the Ikorodu people are getting right now. So the future is bright. We need to be bold to make this happen. And like Mr. Ayero said, yes, we are providing social service. But the people that we are carrying out are actually the people contributing to the pension funds.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's their money.
It's their money.
So let's use it to make
their lives
better.
Absolutely.
Many people have always talked about investing with these pension funds, living in line, following the PFAs and all of that. This is really interesting. Thank you very much for spending your afternoon with us, Mr. Fola Tinubu, Chief Executive Officer of Primero, and also Sonny Ayere, CEO DLM. Thank you very much
for having us.
Thank you.
Well, we will take a break, and when we return, we'll bring you more. Stay with us.